Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, crisis management, well-being, COVID, disasters, anything that can help you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Alex Fullick there, so I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Today, we're going to be talking about media, especially talking with media during a crisis. Are they friend? Are they foe? And are we making them our foe, or are we making them our friend? And I'd like to welcome today Mark Harris. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much indeed, Alex, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I'm glad you accepted. I liked what the outline you had regarding a presentation you recently did, and I always find it interesting that media can be a friend or foe depending on how we deal with it. And we have some things we're going to talk about today. But before we do get started, could you take a minute or two and talk about yourself, what you do, and how you got into what you do?
Indeed, no problems, Alex. So I started off my sort of life after education, etc., with the British military. So I did 14 years in the British Army and finished at the rank of Major. I then left and went to the London School of Public Relations and then looked around at what I wanted to do for my commercial life. And a lot of the skills that we'd built up in the army, the skill set that we had, etc., sort of tended to point me towards crisis management. And one of the elements that we covered at the London School of Public Relations also was crisis communications. And so there was definitely a sort of skill set and indeed experience that I'd built up through my 14 years in the military, which was transferable to the commercial world. And so then I started off my 25 years plus consulting on crisis management, issues management, and crisis communications thereafter. So that's me in brief.
And here you are now.
Indeed, here I am now. Yeah.
Well, as I said in the introduction, we're going to be talking about how to deal with the media during a crisis and whether we are making them a friend or a foe. But today's world is a little bit different. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, how are you defining media these days?
Yeah. I think the important thing, I think, is to sort of look at the term media and understand that this is what we're trying to do is we're trying to affect mass communications when we want to. And so, I mean, media has changed and crisis communications has changed on the back of that. When I started, obviously, we had television, we had radio, and we had printed media. Mm-hmm. So that was how people would get their message out. And then in '95, CNN started. And so that then woke the other sort of television channels certainly up to the idea of this requirement for a 24-hour news cycle. And so again, there is a change then in what we can do from the point of view of crisis management, crisis communications, because it is now this 24-hour news cycle. And then other developments then took place, such as social media introducing itself sort of around about sort of 2000 thereabouts, and corporations, communications team were looking at mainstream media from the point of view of communication, but also segmenting social media. Now, as we see with the developments of technology and also with citizen journalism, essentially, they must be treated as the same. And so your crisis communications plan, which supports your crisis management response, must be able to respond to all media through all platforms in order to make sure you are getting your message out, depending on what the crisis is. Because, one of the things we may want to talk about a little bit, are you reactive in your communications or are you proactive in your communications? So let's say, with crisis communications supporting crisis management, there are two sort of maxims that I talk to clients about there. And the first one is essentially actions speak louder than words. Mm-hmm. And the second one is you can't talk yourself out of a situation that you have acted yourself into. So then when I try to explain where crisis communications and the media come into this, it's from the point of view of you've got to fix the problem and then communicate about what you're doing, how you're fixing it, etc. And an analogy I use to illustrate that is the idea of a crack in the dining room wall. So at the weekend, you get asked, it's on your honey to-do list, we need to repair that crack in the wall in the dining room. So you do a little bit of sanding, do a little bit of digging out of anything else that's there. Then you fill, sand, and then either paint or paper. Now, 3 weeks later, 5 more cracks appear. Why? Because I've not actually fixed what is making those cracks in the wall. So, and crisis communications people don't always love me for this analogy, but essentially we can paper over the cracks, which really doesn't help, or we can fix what's making those cracks and then fill and then sand and then paint or paper. So we've actually fixed the situation. I think, does that make sense?
Yes. Actually, I do have a question for you, because you mentioned the proactive versus reactive approach. Would it be fair to say that at the initial outset of something, you really are reactive, but you have to become proactive right away because of the demands that are going to be put on the organization or the person, right?
No,
the community.
That is a very, very valid point, Alex. And it comes about, I think, from this development of technology and also citizen journalism. And so you may well actually become aware of an issue with your product, with your service, or whatever it is that you do for your clients. You may well become aware of an issue with it actually from social media or from the media as a whole, which may well have been triggered by a post by someone. Now we think back to that aeroplane landing on the Hudson, flown by Tom Hanks, or was that actually Scully? But anyway, so that within 12 seconds, I think there was a tweet about that, and it was up and it was around. So yes, you're going to have to be on the front foot right from the get-go, which comes back to preparedness. So the idea then is that you need to look at what could potentially impact your service delivery, your products, etc., and then prepare for a problem impacting that service or those products, so that you are ready from the get-go, because you must fill that vacuum and you can't allow silences.
Right.
Now, it may well be that you have a holding statement. Yes, we are aware of an issue. We have our technical teams looking at that issue at this moment. And as soon as we have more, we will then inform you. But if you don't fill that vacuum, there's going to be some idiot out there who's going to feed it for you.
Yeah. And then they end up controlling your narrative, right?
Correct. Or it may well be, if a regulatory authority is involved and they don't have the confidence that, one, you are responding correctly to fix the issue, and two, that you're not communicating, they may well come in and take over from you. And there you've totally lost your response. You've lost confidence. You've lost trust. So it's very important that you demonstrate that you are responding, that you're aware of something, and that more information will follow.
You mentioned different types of media now, and your example, when you were younger, it was the TV and the newspaper, basically, mostly the newspaper. I kind of remember that too. And you see still movies today with people, wearing their fedora and their little press card in the brim. Does it take new skills, or do you need more people now to deal with social media, the print media, the journalists standing there? When I started, it was, you just had a spokesperson, but it seems it's a lot bigger than that now because of the various media.
Yes, I mean, you are right in that. I mean, you will need to make sure you have the resources that you need to respond. And again, coming back to the preparation side of life, you develop your plans, you look at your plans, you stress test those plans, you exercise them, and you identify gaps. So do we need more people? Do we need more people internally on this, or can we outsource various elements of it? Now, when we come back to spokespersons, I never, ever advocate that you outsource your spokesperson. you've got to be genuine. It's got to be someone from your organization, from that point of view. But yes, you may well have a monitoring team that is looking at social media, and that is outside of your organization. You may well outsource that. But for genuineness of message, and indeed making sure those messages are up to date, that really must be dealt with in-house. So the formulation of those messages, sign off from legal, etc. And again, a lot of that can be done in preparation, in, for want of a better phrase, peacetime, so that you're ready. But whatever you do, don't sort of get a pre-prepared statement and then just send it out. Make sure it is pertinent to that issue that is facing you. And again, make sure legal has another quick check of it. But don't necessarily let legal actually stop things, just, because sometimes they can be quite hard on the brake when it comes to crisis management.
I was just going to ask you about that, because it seems to be a 50-50 from people I talk to. It's like, well, legal can come in and you look at things, but we won't let them change what we need to say, our message. And the other side seems to say we won't do anything unless legal gives the thumbs up.
Yeah, there is a joke in crisis management, which is, and no doubt I'll offend some lawyers here, but it's, when it comes to crisis management, make sure you have a lawyer on the bus, but don't let them drive. But it is extremely important that you do have that legal opinion. Now, it may well be that your crisis management team takes on board that opinion, says, yes, I hear that opinion, but we have just had an explosion which has killed 10 of our own and 5 innocent bystanders. As a CEO or as the head spokesperson, I am not going to go out there and I am not going to say sorry about this.
Mm-hmm.
So what is our best way of showing the fact that we are sorry about this? So as I said, yeah, take the opinion and then craft your messages to make sure that you're taking that opinion on board, but also that you're demonstrating that you are sorry about something.
It got me thinking of the phrase, do what's right.
Indeed.
And don't let legal type, and I'm not knocking lawyers out there, so please don't send me emails. I'm not knocking lawyers.
No,
but do what's right rather than what you might be afraid of further down the road.
Yeah, and there's also another sort of test that I talk to clients about when we're out and about doing things, and that is, I call it the breakfast test. Following a crisis and your response to that crisis, can you sit down with your family the following morning at breakfast time and look your family in the eyes and be satisfied that you have done the right thing?
Mm. Is that kind of also having a little bit of empathy, like putting yourself in the shoes of what an impacted family might be feeling?
Indeed. Yeah, very, very much looking at the empathy side of things as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So who makes the best spokesperson then? Because you mentioned, the CEO being a spokesperson. I know of organizations who have an individual who is assigned to speak with media if there's any media requests. But in a real crisis or disaster, who should be sitting there? One or the other? Both? Someone else? Who should be the face of the organization?
I always advocate keeping the CEO in reserve for 2 events. One, which is, this is incredibly serious. Or hopefully, this has happened, but it's been rectified, and I'm here as the CEO to say this is what we've done, etc., and we're now good to go. Other people, so that is the CEO. I would hold the CEO in reserve. So you are looking probably for, I would say you're looking for a senior executive. You're looking for a senior executive, and you're looking for sort of middle management as well, probably from the comms team. Most importantly, though, they need to be trained.
Mm-hmm.
You can't wing it in a crisis, in a press conference, because you'll be found, you'll be found wanting. You won't be on point from that point of view. So they need to be trained, and regularly trained, and then rehearsed. And they need to be rehearsed specifically pertinent to the situation that is there. And they need to understand what those really tough questions might be and how they're then going to respond to those really tough questions. So that's one element of spokespersons. Now, depending on what the situation is, what you are responding to, you may well want to have someone who has technical knowledge of the fix that you're doing. So he turns out, yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn around to Mike here, who is our head of IT, who will talk you through what we're doing in conjunction with Microsoft to rectify this situation. So you've got someone technical there, or if it's a product, a food product, you have one of your quality assurance people, in the white coat, etc., and they talk through what they are doing from the point of view of making sure that product is safe for consumption. I think the last thing as well, from that point of view, is every now and again, depending on what the situation is, you may well want third-party endorsement. So it may well be that there is someone in local government who understands what you do, likes what you do, and has confidence in what you're doing. You may well want them either by themselves sort of doing a message and getting a statement out there. And of course, also make sure that you are in line with what law enforcement or regulatory authorities might be saying as well. So you're not, you are not treading on their toes, because that then starts to become a spat between you and law enforcement, or you and the regulatory authorities, which again, the media will pick up on, and then the media becomes foe rather than a friend.
Right. On that note, we've come to the end of our first segment. We are talking with Mark Harris today about crisis management and the media, friend or foe. I've got some questions for you about some of that training. So we'll be right back with segment 2. Stay tuned. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.